Bienvenidos, damas y caballeros, soldados y vosotros perlas. I'm your host, Spanish Galleon, and today I wanted to talk about something that I saw recently. Apologies once again for my head, my hair, and sorry for the background, although La Momorin here is our emotional support. This is from a stream I did a few days ago. I'm your host, Spanish Galleon, and today I wanted to talk about a topic. I saw a video titled, I have it here, allow me to read it out. What history actually says about mass migration, ... space, parentheses, no AI, end parentheses. By the channel Tom Fitzgerald, also at auctoritas _ I, or it might be L. In the video that I saw, which was, it's one of those videos where it's like, hey, let's go back in history and let's look at what happens when you bring in alien peoples into another people's homeland type of situation. So then he goes back and he gives all these examples. And I thought, it was standard fare type of deal. You bring in a group of peoples, let's say in Rome, the barbarian peoples, and then along with other things, poof, now it's done. Overall, the video is okay. I didn't mind that, except for one point he did bring up. The fact that there were a couple occasions where diverse groups of people could work together and they could bring about something. The example he gave that really resonated with me most was the Habsburg Empire. It was basically after Napoleon until World War I, which had a bunch of Germans, Poles, Czechs, Slovaks, Slovenes, Croats, Serbs, Hungarians, so many different peoples that are as different from each other. And he did mention, although briefly, that it did work. However, obviously problems have problems, and ultimately he doesn't say this. He says something along the lines of, it just kind of, they had problems they couldn't resolve. But it was really World War I that was the problem, or that was the nail in the coffin. However, what really piqued my interest in why I'm making this video is he mentions the Habsburg Empire and how it worked. And that's the thing. It can work. Another point in the video is he mentions that different peoples, as long as they work together and as long as they assimilate, they can achieve the goal. For the Romans, it was Romanization, etc., etc. But, at some point it breaks down and yada yada. I understand that to a degree. But I will say, we should really look at the Habsburgs for what they did. Because they didn't really have a whole bunch to connect them together except God and the family and the dynasty. That was really what united all the different peoples of their empires, or all the different groups in their empire. And even before, during the golden age of the Habsburg Empire, same is true. The Spanish Habsburgs famously had the Hispanic monarchy, which was a collection of different peoples and cultures and all that stuff. And it worked until the main point is people didn't want it to work the way it was intended to. The system is only as good as you make it to be. Or let's break it down to the most fundamental thing, a relationship between a person A and person B. A relationship, and this is what I wholly believe, a relationship only works insofar as person A and person B work together towards that. It fails when either person A or person B don't work together. And because this is a video that is quite controversial, comment section is more or less, hey, let's hate. One of them talks about how it didn't work in Rome, or in Soviet Union, or in Yugoslavia. It's not working in Western Europe. Another one, all history says the same. Mass migration equals violence. Another one says, I love the no AI tag. Another one is much more lengthy. 30 years of quote-unquote mass migration, cultural clashes. It's already boiling over into violence. Even Aristotle says something about it. Tyrants use it to disrupt their people. Oil and water never mix. In other words, to make it short, selective migration, very good. Mass migration, not very good. The real Trojan horse, it's been an analogy all the time. And there are some other comments that are more positive, but the general premise is moving one group of people to another, not a good thing. Unfortunately, the mass collective conscience doesn't think as far, and one of the things that is always brought to my attention are the way the European powers kind of were either forced or abandoned to play their empires from whence they came. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big supporter of, say, the British Empire or the French Empire, either first, second, or third. So it's very much, I want to say, I understand the main point is you can't have two groups of people in the same country if one of them is imported with just without any preparation. But as I mentioned before, with the person A and person B relationship, so long as both groups work together, it does work. Right? I should really, really watch out. The moving of one group of people from one part of the world into another, it can work so long as both groups involved work together. However, in the current era, in the current day and age, that's very difficult to find. It's quite interesting that out of all the examples he gives, it's the Habsburgs that were able to do it relatively well. I anticipate some pushback saying, oh, well, they're all Europeans. They all have the same blood. I'm aware that some of the minority peoples or some of the ethnic groups in the Habsburg Empire were from the Balkans. They were Slavs. I don't know if you know this or not, but Slavs kind of hate each other. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have no idea. This is from what I see and observe. But Slavs kind of hate each other. So the excuse that, oh, it's the same culture or it's a similar culture, it's not good enough. Which is why I strongly suggest the old-fashioned way. As long as both groups work together, nothing is impossible. So that's what I think and that's what I believe, and from my understanding, my readings, what the Habsburgs did try to do in general. They did try to bring together different groups of people because that was how they were able to establish their base and thus expand from it. I mean, Habsburgs are known for their marriages. A marriage only works if both parties contribute to it, if they both give it their all. This is instilled in each generation of Habsburgs to greater or lesser degrees. So it makes sense that the peoples that Habsburgs rule over also have some sort of sentiment similar to that of their rulers, that they have to work together with different peoples. And so long as they do, fine and dandy. And when they don't, that's when things start to break down. I personally believe everyone should, where they're born, they should stay there for most of their life. Like the vast majority of people are fine living in a 100-mile radius from where they were born. Fortunately, things such as war, famine, disease, plague, natural disasters can cause you to move. But more and more so is the economic reality. As someone who has moved for economic opportunities, I do say it sucks in the sense that I don't really want to move to different parts of the world just so I could earn a living. But it is reality. It would take a lot of cooperation for that to change. But are people willing to do that? I know my lovely Momorin would love to. It's a joke. I'm sorry. But I understand the vitriol that people have against the movement of one peoples to another, specifically in Western Europe. But you got to remember that the world kind of, or maybe not world, but different parts of the world kind of asked them to do so in a sloppy manner. It was called the decolonization period from World War II to about the 90s. And, well, it could have gotten better. Let's just say both the leadership in, especially Western Europe, and the leadership in the parts that they were lording over have a common interest. That common interest is greed, to the chagrin of both of their populace. I mean, imagine this. Your country is racked by civil wars and coups and military dictatorships in, say, sub-Saharan Africa. You can live there, but there's a good chance, like a 33% chance, you just die. Is that really a place you want to raise a family? If you want to go down that road. Or if you want to be a priest, because they're chopping off them priests down there, boy, from what I hear. Again, not ideal. Likewise, going across the Mediterranean, do you really want a group of people who are escaping injustice, which is fine, right? But just treating your home as like a rental property? No, it doesn't feel nice. However, if there was a considerate plan, I'm sure most people would be fine. But there's no considerate plan. It's just leadership A, hey, I want to make a lot of money. You in? Leadership B, sure, let's work together. Again, when they work together, it's great. When they don't work together, it's bad. However, they're not even working together. They're just like, hey, I need to use you. It's like, okay, I need to use you too. And they win either way. Which is why when people in Western countries, Western European countries, and including the United States, send aid money, financial aid money to these countries in sub-Saharan Africa or the Middle East or in Asia, a lot of times it's a little bit of skimmed off the top. They call this corruption. And how rampant that is, I don't know. From what I've seen, it's almost like they're just working together, but they're both so selfish that they're both so selfish, so they're not supposed to work together. But their interests line up that they do work together for their own selfish interests, which leads to a lack of planning on all parties involved, including the resident populations. And, well, guess what? There's conflict, there's strife. To bring back other examples, in Rome, the Visigoths, from my understanding of both sides, was the Visigoths were willing to be like vassals to the Romans. But the Roman governors, the consuls, the senators, everyone was just slapping around the Visigoths wherever they could. There's only so much abuse a people can take before they rebel, before they rise up. In the modern day example, it's a bit of the opposite, in the sense that these other groups of people that are mass migrating to the European continent, they're inciting. They didn't come in to be peaceful, because again, there was no plan. It was just, my homeland's devastated. Oh, here's a free ticket. There's no thought behind it. So they're like rising up. So now it's the native populations that wants to rise up, kick them out. And it's just like, if cooler heads could prevail and at least work out a plan, I'm sure most people would agree. Problem is, cooler heads are getting their voices drowned out. As you saw in the comment section, only a few had anything positive to say. Everyone else was just chanting the same mantra. Essentially, immigrants bad, kick them out immediately. And again, I understand the sentiment. I do believe that people should just be born or stay where they were born. Life doesn't always work that way. So what else can you do? Work together. And that's the real message I want to have. That, again, the Habsburgs, I guess, proved this until World War I came around. But as long as peoples can work together, they can accomplish a lot more. And again, they might have shared the same or similar culture, but they hated each other. The different groups hated each other. Kind of like now, but at least then they had a consensus. One was God, the other was the emperor or the dynasty. The real takeaway is always go to God first. If you want a real solution to the world's problems, I kid you not, the answer is the cross. But after that, you have to work together. I don't know how that looks like. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know. And I'm sure the guy in the video, again, it was a fine video. It's just something I've already heard before, so I wasn't particularly interested. It's just worth noting, he does mention the Habsburgs. But that's about it. Then he moves on. I don't think that's a good thing. I think we need positive examples as well. And the Habsburgs definitely prove that. If not the Austrian Habsburgs, the Spanish as well. The Spanish definitely proved people from different cultures, different communities can work together. And that's the key thing. Can work, but you have to work together. If you're not willing to do that, I understand. Expect conflict. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, is that I really do think that we should look more at positive examples. Oh, 3 things. 1, obviously, God, the cross, and the church. Just that is the solution to all life's problems. 2, the working together of different peoples is always a positive thing, regardless of what the problem is. However, if peoples are not going to work together, then you're going to have problems. So we need to be able to work together. So long as both sides of the relationship are working together, it'll work. And 3, I do think we need more positive examples instead of just negative examples. I'm fine with understanding the fall of Rome through mass migration lens as one example, fine. But when you say the Habsburgs, and then you don't say more, don't elaborate, please elaborate more. He doesn't mention it, but the reality of it was the Habsburg system did work. It adapted to the times it was in, but from what I read, both Duke Franz Ferdinand, Emperor Karl, Kaiser Karl, they both had plans to work together with the different peoples. but it was cut short by World War One. So I think positive examples such as the Habsburg Empire need to be more and more repeated. If at the very least to give us a blueprint of what people believed or what ideals people were willing to believe in up until the very end. So God, work together, and positive examples. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Spanish Galleon, and as always, Viva Cristo Rey, Arriba Hispanidad, Adelante Hispanos. Adios, vuestros ustedes. Also, I'll probably, when you see this video, which I'll hopefully release on July 3rd, I won't be here. I'll be busy, so enjoy the break, my fellow Americans. And if you're not an American, well, happy birthday, America. Yeehaw! Adios, vuestros ustedes.